Welcome back to Fully Stoked Podcast. I'm Sarah Stokes, your host. Cody is not with us again today because, as you know, I am a senior mortgage loan advisor. However, I love connecting people and talking to other women in business and entrepreneurs. And I am here today with one of my favorites. This is Shannon Kohnle, and she is an entrepreneur, business owner. She does some really cool things. She's an artist. She's a wife, she's a creative, and she gives back to the community a lot. So she's really fantastic. I want you to hear all about what she does. Welcome, Shannon. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so we're going to explore your inspiring journey, and it's very inspiring. Shannon had a lot of things to overcome when she was growing up, and I think that's made her into a very empathic person, probably, and maybe even paved the way to what you're doing now. I would think so. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what led you into your line of work, and maybe your line of work too. Tell us all about that.
I am from Monroe, North Carolina. I was born and raised here.
Me too.
I grew up off 601 South going towards Pageland. What led me to my line of work? It was a zigzag journey getting there. But to finally get here, I think I just wasn't into corporate America. I landed there for a time and it just didn't resonate for me. It's great for other people, but it just was not my thing. And eventually I found my way to massage therapy and then also found my way back to doing art, which I had done since I was a child.
So the name of your business is DreamSpree Studios, right? And tell us what you do specifically. You have like two worlds within DreamSpree Studios. Tell us about that.
I do. I teach paint and sip style art classes. I kind of focus there and I do them in assisted living centers, also bars and restaurants and private classes in the community and things like that. And then the other part of what I do is massage therapy, which I've been doing for 14 years now. And I started the art portion of it, I think, as far as teaching classes, and I actually went fully just working for myself, I think around 2021 with massage.
Nice. So I have actually had a massage with Shannon and she is fantastic. I can't wait for my next one. And I'm a bit of a massage snob because I guess I do things for myself. Like I get my nails done and I need to get my toes done more often. I think that's more relaxing because they massage you. But I used to get massages all the time and they are so therapeutic for recovery, relaxation. Sometimes it just forces you to be quiet, be still and not look at your phone when you're receiving a massage. So I can attest she is one of the best I have ever worked with. All the places that I've had massages, Europe, US, all over the United States, really good. I think you have a special certification Kristen was talking about. What is it?
I do manual lymphatic drainage.
What's that?
I'm voter certified. We have a couple different schools that do that.
Okay.
But it just helps to flush your lymphatic system. Also, a lot of post-op for a recovery for different types of operations, whether that's plastic surgery or post-cancer and things like that.
So your lymphatic system, what does that do?
It's kind of the sewer system of the body. It's the best way to put it. It's keyed in with your immune system. It's very important. But unlike your circulatory system, which is deep in the body and also has its own natural pump, your lymphatic system does not have that. So it's stimulated by movement. Now, things happen along the way in our lives, like cancer, surgeries, and also just aging to where we naturally lose some of our lymph nodes as time goes on. So it becomes a little bogged down by these things, and lymphatic massage helps with that.
Lymphatic massage. I don't know that I even knew that was a thing. That's really interesting. Okay. You've shared that you were the first in your family to graduate from high school. That's quite a feat. And so you did that, but you didn't only graduate from high school. You went to college a whole year early.
I did.
When you were 17. So you moved out and went to college. Like, tell us a little bit, how did that happen? You said, I'm not only going to graduate, I'm just going to go ahead and go to college a year early.
I'd love to say that it was just because I was so motivated to go to college, but really I was just so motivated to get out of the house. I grew up with a very volatile parent who also, now I always have to put mom where mom belongs because she was brilliant and probably a far better artist than I am. However, she also was riddled with mental illness and she was never raised. Like, she didn't have a mother or a father. So she had no ability to parent to begin with. and she was abused. And so that came down pipe. So, living with her became very, very difficult by then. And so when I was 15, things were getting kind of hairy at home, and I started looking into graduating early to get out of the house. And then things calmed down for a while. But I'd already started the paperwork. So I quit for about a year or so. And then when I was 17, things just exploded. And I was like, we can't do this anymore. And so I went through with it. I had the grades for it. I only needed 2 more credits, I think, to graduate high school. And it turned out I could plug those in from college.
Right.
So I moved out of the house. I didn't have enough money to do any of this. So I just didn't even have a plan as to where I was going to live at the time.
Wow.
And just managed to get through it. And I went to college. I went to Wingate.
Wow. So did you just stay on people's couches for a while?
I did. I started out I have slept in my car before.
Wow.
I kind of couch surfed and then landed some places. And eventually I had my first apartment. I think I was 18. Deep into being 18 when I got my first apartment.
That's amazing. That is such a story of resilience. I mean, wow. I guess when you're in the middle of that, you don't think, woe is me. You think, next step? What's my next step? What am I going to do next? How am I going to survive? How am I going to do this? And that was ingrained in you early. So I could see how maybe that could translate into a successful career.
Yeah.
Pushing yourself.
I don't know why, but I never had the idea that I had the option to fail. For one thing, I didn't have a lot of family. Like by the time I was about 20 years old, the majority of my family had passed away. My family was very small to begin with. And then that's just the way it panned out. So I already knew I didn't have, I guess, a safety net. So I just didn't have the option to fail. But I never didn't believe in myself. I knew, and I screwed up quite a bit along the way.
Yeah.
Because again, I was a kid trying to figure this stuff out, and you don't know what you're doing, on a good day. So,
wow.
But, just keep trying.
Okay. I didn't know all of that. I think you had lightly touched on that before, and I had read that, this prior to being here, but I don't think you know how heavy that is. When people hear that, they're probably like, dang, she has overcome more than anybody I've ever met. That's big.
I don't look at it that way.
I mean, you don't, yeah, but we do. We're like, that's amazing. So it's the resilience. And I think a lot of people will benefit from hearing this. And I'm glad you don't look at it that way, because maybe some people who do look at it that way would be, what was me, right? But you're never like that. You're always positive. You're always smiling. You're always going to do something. She's got an appointment in Huntersville later today to teach art to a whole nursing home. How sweet is that? I know it's your job too, but some people wouldn't do that. Some people that teach sip and paint just wouldn't do that. They wouldn't spend their day doing that. So anyway, you've got a very positive outlook. I just want you to know that. And I think it's maybe there's something for other people to take from that. In the future, you could do more talks or something. Do a TED talk.
I'll try. I mean, this is my second podcast.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm not used to this format so far.
You're very natural.
I'm working on it.
You're very natural at it. Yeah. So that's just incredible. That's really great.
Thank you.
All right. So you went to Wingate, and then after that, you said you messed up along the way, or you just whatever. Did you finish at Wingate?
I did not. I went to Wingate, and then I think I was at Wingate for about 2 years. I mean, it was expensive. I didn't really have any guidance. If I had to do it over again, I definitely would have started with a community college, and then I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But so I started at Wingate, and then I wound up leaving, and I went to Central Piedmont.
Okay.
And so I had some fallout from a relationship that I was in, and wound up leaving school. So I got about 3.5 years of school in.
Right.
And then, I worked in bars and restaurants, and then I wound up going through different corporate jobs, and I actually landed at an insurance company. Was the last place that I was working. And I did middle market policy change, which is where you kind of work on large insurance policies for big groups like the Panthers and things like that.
Okay. That's cool. And it just wasn't for you. So you then decided you wanted to do massage, or was art first?
Massage was first. I had a friend of mine that did massage therapy, and I talked to her about it, and I went to 2 different schools, and then I to kind of check it out. And I wound up going to Southeastern because that one lined up the best and pulled the trigger. I had already paid off my student loans and everything. So that was a big leap of faith for me. I was like, wow, do I want to get in debt over again? I wouldn't say that I was financially stable at the time either. So a pretty big leap of faith, but it just felt like the right direction to go in.
Were you married at that time when you decided to be a massage therapist, or?
I was, but I was married to someone else.
Okay.
So it was not.
I'm digging deep. All right.
Yeah, we are digging deep.
All right. So your love of biology and the human anatomy was kind of how that evolved into that career. You've always been interested in that. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I don't know if I would like to put my hands on people all day long, but I'm glad you do because I love massage. All right. So you've created a space that reflects what you would want to experience. And she does have, she'll go to your house, right? You go to people's houses.
I do mobile.
But you also have your own studio at your house, and it's like a detached area, and it's beautiful. It's very peaceful and zen, and it's lovely. Her backyard is gorgeous too. So if you are so lucky as to be able to go to her studio, it's a great experience. So what are some of the unique touches or philosophies that set your business apart and think of?
I'm very centered on the experience. I think actually growing up in a home that was very chaotic and not always so emotionally stable makes me want to create a space for people where they're able to relax and just not worry about things so much or how they're being perceived. Because I run across, especially with women, because I work with a lot of women that are just, they're so unhappy or rather critical of their bodies sometimes that they, I'm like, first of all, you can just kind of think of me as more like a nurse because I'm already trying to figure out I'm looking at muscle attachments and things like that. I'm not worried about your cellulite. But I think it's important to have a place where you can relax and kind of get to the root of some physical issues that you're having. So I've made a space that it's not in and out, we're going to have more of a relationship of, how are you feeling? And I'm going to keep track of it. And it's just not so, here's a massage. I'm going to get you out of here. 10 minutes later, here's another massage. Here's another massage. Here's another massage. And that is very much the way that it's set up in most places.
It is. It absolutely is. And that is not as lovely as an experience. And I mean, it is nice. They have the Zen music playing, they have the essential oils in the air or whatever, but it's still like that, just push them in, push them out. And
it's very much a almost franchise.
I don't even know if I can tell you the names of the therapists that I've been to in those type places. So, So, all right. So tell me about, as a business owner, entrepreneur, like marketing, how are you getting your name out there? And one way is we're both a part of a networking group in Union County, but like, what are some other things that you do that you found helpful? Maybe somebody watching this who's starting their journey as a massage therapist or an art sip and paint artist would want to know.
Go out in your community where your clients or your customers are and speak to them. People like to work with people that they've met and that they've kind of got a repertoire with. And so and you'll find your people that way too. Like you'll find the people that you kind of mesh with and that you want to work with that way, but you have to go out and look for them. And then Facebook is probably one of my biggest places of finding people as well. And tell the people that you have already to tell other people about you and shout you out and things like that. Like there's, word of mouth is like the strongest advertising you can get. It trumps the slickest advertising that you can purchase. Yes. It just does.
Yeah, it really does. It does. So you mentioned being part of the Neurospicy community. I am too. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I have ADHD. I have suspected, which, autism and ADHD kind of hang out together often. So my brain just works a little differently. I am in a corporate environment. For me, I'm going so fast through everything that I'm instantly bored. And then I'm doing something else on the side at the same time. And it just doesn't mesh for that type of situation. Whereas the way that I work now, I make lists, I keep up with things that way, and I honor how I feel also. Like, you're going to get spots where you're like, I really need a break. And sometimes things kind of synchronized where you see that break coming up in your schedule, take it. It's so easy to get burnt out when you have a brain that's naturally very wired, that you have to give yourself time and space and to breathe. And also doing massage, I kind of get to meditate for hours a day, which really just clicks it down for me. So it just actually, it gives me more of a focus to where it kind of gets rid of some of that noise for me.
So I also have I don't know if it's ADHD or ADD. I'm not sure. I think I've seen both diagnoses in various places, but it is different. You know, I can have a conversation with somebody and I can get way off track, but then 20 minutes later, I'll bring it back and they're like, wait, what just happened here? Like, you know, but in my mind, it's all related. And I'd like to touch on every single point. Okay, now let's go back to the original question that we asked, right? And it can be, I don't know about off-putting, but it can be difficult for some people, like my husband, you know, but he's learned to deal with it too. He has learned to deal with it. But I think, at least in my case, I am hyper aware of everything going on around me. And I think the perception, a lot of people think ADHD is when you're not aware, you're just
not paying attention at all.
That's but the thing is, I'm very aware of every single thing going on. And I like to try to complete as many tasks as possible, which is what I heard you say, right? You have something going on over on the side. I mean, I can stay up late doing work. That's for sure, fortunately. But you do have to put limits. So I've just learned something today. Like when you see a naturally occurring opportunity for a break, take it.
You have to pace yourself or you will get burnout. I know, of course, the way I learned that was by, burning myself out.
Yeah, I like that. I'm writing down this quote. So take a break, take it. Okay. All right. So that's a strategy, right? You've developed to thrive as an entrepreneur is taking the breaks and making lists. So those are some things that was answered my next question. And then I think I already asked you, what advice do you have for listeners who I asked you an entrepreneur, so who feel different and where they might not hold, it might hold them back in business. What if they have ADHD or if they have autism? And do you have any advice for people?
I think it helps to reframe it. A lot of people see it as a stigma. If you reframe it as, your mind works a specific way and that it's actually your superpower. Now, it's going to have some spots where you're like, this is actually, maybe it's kneecapping me in this one situation, but look at the situations where it absolutely does not. And also you have to look at it like from an evolutionary standpoint. The people who have ADHD, they were the people who were like protecting their social group, because they saw everything. They were on edge to where they could notice all the little intricacies and things like that. So it has a purpose. It's just that in our society now, it doesn't plug into here's the system of how we do schooling and everything else, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value.
I agree.
So, just use it in a way that benefits and works for you. Just because the way that you work doesn't work for someone else, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Right. I think that's a big thing.
Well, I went off script a little bit, but I was just going to ask you your opinion. I have heard therapists before say ADHD is like a coping mechanism, a mild coping mechanism for trauma. And so you've heard that too. Okay. And it may be hypervigilance and hyper awareness is because maybe from your childhood, you had to be hyper aware of what's going on and, maybe what your mom's feelings were at that time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, as much as I'm like, life is not fair. Things that happen to you in life are not fair. But the hypervigilance that I developed as a kid from having to pay attention all the time helps me now because, in massage therapy, it's so nuanced. You have to watch people's breathing patterns. You watch the way they walk and the way they hold themselves, and their positioning tells you a lot about what's going on in their physical form. Yeah. So you're using skills that you developed. Maybe the way you developed them wasn't ideal.
Right.
But it's okay. You still develop these skills. Right. Now use them and plug them into something useful.
That's great. It leads me right into my next point. Is like your emotional intelligence and your human connection. So your past has really helped you to be able to be empathic in both your art and your massage therapy. I mean, we've talked about that time and time again. So, I mean, that might be why you're such a really good massage therapist. I mean, it absolutely is the reason why you're such a good massage therapist. So your experience in life, what has it taught you about understanding people, especially when they're stressed or hurting, in pain, injured, anything like that, or vulnerable? Like, I don't know, your experience. Like, I guess we have been talking about that a little bit, but if you have anything to add, you don't have to. Yeah, I mean,
I think the biggest thing, and you got to learn this, and also this is coming. I've done some therapy, so I wouldn't say I just appear to here,
yeah,
but you don't take things personally. The 99% of what people do is response to what they got going on in here. It's honestly not even a response to you. So you just got to kind of, it's one of those things where also your first reaction, your first thought, like if someone said something and you think it's kind of offensive, well, your first thought, that's not your responsibility. That's just your lizard brain coming forward with, oh, this offends me or whatever.
Right.
And you're not responsible for that thought. Like that was instinct that sent that forward. Mm-hmm. But your second thought, you're responsible for. So just take a breath, honor the pause. I'm always, anytime someone says something to me where I'm like, ooh, just take a breath and think about it for a second and be like, okay, well, most of the time it's something going on with them. Yeah. In fact, all the time it's something going on with them.
Gosh, that's really good. That's good advice. I really like that. I wrote that one down too. You have a lot of good wisdom. And you said the lizard brain thing. So I also know about the lizard brain. So you've definitely had the reptilian brain down here. Yep. You have had therapy. All right. So you have a great quote. Talent or luck might get you in the room, but tenacity will keep you there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what does tenacity mean to you personally?
It's kind of a stick-to-itiveness, and I don't mean do it perfectly. Like just get in there and keep doing it imperfectly, but you got to keep standing up. You may honestly, most of the time, the most successful people are not the most talented people. I know very talented people who, for whatever reason, are not particularly successful in some of the things that you would think they would be amazingly successful in. The big thing is just putting yourself out there and just staying at it, because you're gonna, I wouldn't say fail. Fail's a bad way to put it, but you're going to not succeed right away, or this thing's not going to pan out the way you thought it would, but you just got to keep going. And the person that keeps going is going to be the one that manages to push the envelope forward.
Or what did you win? A car? What is it? 58-hour hold your hand to the car contest. What did you win?
Okay, so it was Speed Street. Okay. During the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, I was in a hold your hand on the car contest, and it was a race car, and whoever held it on the car longest was going to win all kinds of stuff, including like the tickets to the October race, all the swag, some money, some Food Lion sponsored it, so it was like a Food Lion gift card. Nice. It's been a minute, so I don't remember all of it, but I just did it on a whim. Also, my father had somewhat recently beaten melanoma at the time, and my dad's a huge race fan, and so it was honestly, I started out with, hey, okay, we'll do this, I'll take dad to the race, he'll enjoy it. But as I went in it, now I showed up looking like a bag lady because I'm very fair skinned, and I had like a hat and like long sleeves and a long dress, because I'm going to be out in the sun for who knows how long. And you could have one luxury item. Mine was a bucket. I brought a 5-gallon bucket because
I love it.
Because race cars don't have windows. My dad's a car guy. I know all this stuff. They don't have windows. They have like this like mesh or whatever. So when I would start to get tired, I would just scoot the bucket up to the window and just lay my head down and kind of nap. And that kept me going. But still, it's Speed Street. People are drunk. They're like going outside, like, using the blowers to get the trash out of the road and everything at the end. And after a while, I was honestly getting kind of tired of it. And I was like, there were 3 of us left. I was the last girl.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about taking my hand off the car, because I was like, I'm going to get something, and I'm so tired of this. 2 of the guys, one of them was very nice, and the other one was just a jerk. He was a jerk from the time he got there until the time he left, to his family, to everyone around him. And he was talking to the people beside the car that were running it, and everything. He's like, well, we've talked, and whenever it gets down to just the 2 of us, we're just going to take our hand off the car at the same time, and then we'll split it. And I'm like, okay, so you assume that I'm going to like lose, which means we all have to stay here until all of us are dead. I'm not going to do that now, you know. So I was like, thanks for that.
Test her.
Thanks for that motivation. Yeah. So it finally got to around 50 something hours. And I guess someone's insurance company was like, hey, y'all got to quit this because it's starting to get into a liability phase as far as how long it's going on, you know. And they said, they're like, okay, so, you know, the last three are still here. We're going to do a quiz on NASCAR. And Wheaties, because Wheaties was sponsoring us.
Of course, yes.
So I've been staring at a giant Wheaties box for, 3 days. I knew a lot about Wheaties by then because I had nothing else to do. And some friends of mine brought some stuff about NASCAR, just printed out. And I just sat there and I studied. And I think these guys knew about NASCAR. They're like, oh, we're going to make it,
Yeah.
I've always been a good test taker.
Yeah, so you studied hard.
So I studied hard.
Yes.
And then I managed to do the best on the test. And so I won. They were so angry.
58 hours. And then she wins from taking a test. Well, that guy was arrogant too. So I'm glad you won.
It was.
Talk about tenacious, right? This girl is tenacious. I love that story. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat. That was so much fun. So how do you keep your balance of humility, love, and playfulness?
I've put joy first. I really do.
Oh, that's awesome.
I put joy and just time. I don't have a huge blood family, but I started in my early 20s. I met some amazing people who are still my family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've always been very fortunate to have a good group.
That's awesome.
To go through life with. And it's just so important for me to spend time with them. Keeps me grounded. We remember where we came from. We remember the struggle because we were all in it.
Yeah.
And I just put that first time. I always put joy in the schedule. There's always something I want to do. I'm going to go do it. Whether we're going to a concert, maybe we're going out of town, or maybe it's just, hey, we're taking this weekend and we're going to have a good time just this weekend's house party, whatever. But you have to do that. You got to keep yourself, got to fill your own cup too.
Schedule it, right? Mm-hmm. And I know you take trips to the mountains a lot.
I do.
To see friends, and you go to concerts a lot. Every other time I ask her what she's doing, she's going to a new concert. So it sounds fun. I mean, I think that's good. You have to schedule it too. You schedule your breaks. You said that, and then schedule your joy. So what is one message you hope listeners walk away with? Gosh, there's so many messages. I had no idea she had so much wisdom. I just, wow, I'm just blown away after hearing your whole story. What's something they can walk away with?
I don't know. Well, I always hope people take from things. I tell people in my art classes, everything I say is a suggestion. If you feel called to do something different, please do it. I think that, and I really think that's the message. Everyone can tell you all kinds of things about life, but you're the one living it. So, just take the little stuff that seems to resonate with you and leave the rest, because it's all about your life. It's not about what anyone else thinks about it.
Great advice. Do you have any upcoming projects, workshops, anything like that you want to share?
I do. I have a couple public art classes coming up. Let's see. I have Tuesday, December at Homebrew Tap Room in downtown Monroe. Tuesday, December 9th. I have one coming up at Monroe Aquatic Center. And Saturday, December 13th, I have one at Southern States Monroe. And also, I will be running a food drive. I just started already for Common Heart. And it's going on now through at least December 24th. And as far as info about the art classes, you can find that on my website at DreamSpreeStudio.com. And if you are a current client, or if you just want to drop off food for the food drive, you can reach out to me and we will get that together.
That's awesome. So the food drive, if they want to, do you have that on your website, or can they just reach out to you from your website if they're not a current client? Is that the best way to get in touch with you?
That's probably the best way to get in touch.
All right. And then I'll link all of her information, contact information, social media handles. I really recommend getting a massage from her. I'm not making this up. I wouldn't say it this much if I wasn't serious. She's very, very good at her massage therapy. So did you say this? Be your truest self, or is that something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why don't you say it?
Okay.
Yeah. What's the key message?
Be your truest self and your people will find you.
So wise. So wise. Maybe you should be a therapist or a coach or something one day as another, a third, fourth career, whatever. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. And thank you guys for joining us. If you are interested in being featured on Fully Stoked Podcast, reach out and let me know. Like I said, I will link all of Shannon's information. She is in the general Charlotte area. So if you're like in Western North Carolina or somewhere else, definitely follow her on social media. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.